Guys, I'm back with the last part of What If Deku Was Betrayed and Abused. Now, because this is the series finale, I'm going to make it, or try to make it, at least 1 hour, if not like an hour and a half. Well, it's going to be at least an hour, yeah. And later today, I'm going to be doing a collaboration with Shadow Hokage. I forgot how to pronounce the last part. Hokage? Shadow Hokage? I'm going to be doing a collaboration with him about a certain series. We've been planning it out. And so, I'm going to stop ranting and get straight into this. Last I left off, Deku and Todoroki defeated Stain, came back, and as they're all in the classroom, they go back to the dorms because class ended. Even though I don't even see why they'd be there, because they were in hostel, so they're in the hospital, got questioned by the police. So they got back at night. And as Deku and Todoroki went to his dorm, he opened the door, and inside was Jiro, Momo, Katsuka. Yeah, and Katsuka, that's the three that were in there. As soon as he walked in, they jumped on Deku and hugged him, saying that they were worried. But see, Katsuka was like that arrogant punk in front of everybody. But whenever she's alone with Deku, she becomes a tsundere. Well, you're not going to see much of her around these parts. Sorry about that, I had to go quickly do something. Alright, so this part is going to be covering the forest arc, the overhaul arc, and Deku's vision, as well as the actual festival, not a sports festival, but the one where they make Eri smile. And the reason why I'm putting Eri in this is just for quick few funny scenes, just to entice the story up a bit. Now we start off. Yeah, they gotta do their final exams after sure. Okay, so they go to class the next day. Well, they get a week off. They go to class the next day. They go to the force. Miss Aizawa tells them they're going to go to a camp to train for 2 weeks. I'm pretty sure that was the time. And everybody's hyped about this. Well, not everybody, but they had that little one test behind it. If you failed the test, you got to do extra training courses. And I'm pretty sure I said in part 1 or part 2 that Kodo won't be there, because in this one, his parents weren't killed; they were severely injured. It ruined their career of heroism. I'm sorry, guys, I'm a bit out of breath. So Deku will still fight Muscular, but it won't play out the same way, like him trying to save Koda. So, as on the bus, they start doing their usual talk. It's Todoroki, Shota, Kasuka, Momo, and Jiro all sit next to Deku, 2 behind him, 1 next to him. And they played rock, paper, scissors to see who sat next to him. And this being Kasuka. Now, I'm going to make the ship entirely go off, everybody in class when they knows they're dating. In this part, because it's the finale. And Deku's kissed 2 of them, or 3 of them. He hasn't kissed Todoroki at all. So as they get there, Deku looks around, notices that they're nowhere near a camp. and the Wild Wild Pussycats come out. I forgot what they said because it's been a while since I watched the Force Training arc. And so as Deku grabs Todoroki, Kasuga, Jiro, and Momo, and they're all embarrassed. Kasuga saying, "Let me go, you dumbass." And so, as the Wild Wild Pussycats destroy the floor, Deku makes it so whenever they destroyed the floor, it destroyed all the floor, but his shadow held him still in place, like above a pillar that couldn't be destroyed because it was enveloped by his shadow. So as everyone fell, the Wild Wild Pussycats and Aizawa are looking at Deku, Momo, Jiro, Todoroki, and Kasuga. And Aizawa just says, "Get in the car," or "Get in the bus." And the Wild Pussycats are like, What do you mean? They're supposed to go down there." And Aizawa was like, "If that kid goes down there, there won't be any of those rock creatures you created. And it won't even be a fair chance to any kid down there." So, as Deku, Momo, Jiro, Todoroki, Kasuga get in the bus, they start talking about things. I'm not going to mention these things. I'll probably do like a couple 18 plus scenes, but I'm trying not to make it very detailed. But I'll make it detailed enough you can tell exactly what they're doing. So, we skip whenever they're there at the camp, and Deku starts cooking. And I believe I said Deku had a job. I don't know. I don't think I did, but if I didn't, he works at a 5-star restaurant, or 4.5-star restaurant. So he's a really good cook. So as he cooks a very amazing feast for him, Todoroki, Momo, Jiro, Kasuga, the Wild Wild Pussycats, and Aizawa, the other class gets there. And they see that Deku was cooking, and they say and the Wild Wild Pussycats said y'all were late, so y'all don't get to eat, because in this one they took longer because Deku, Kasuga, Jiro, and Momo weren't there, so that's like 5 students taken off. And Todoroki, Kasuga, and Deku, I'm pretty sure, were the ones that did the most in the Force Training arc to get there. So it took them like almost the entire day. It was nighttime when they got there. So they didn't get to eat that day, and they move on to the showers. Oh, this is probably why I'm going to make it the 18 plus part, as Mineta tries climbing the wall. Deku creates a 3 kunais, and he throws it at Mineta's head, one going above, one to the side, pretty much making an exact replica of his head. And Mineta sees this, so he falls down. And in this one, no one catches Mineta, so Mineta just hits the ground, and he kind of ends up like Coda, knocked out because of the fall, and also because Mineta's a little bitch, so he got scared. And as he pissed in the water, all the guys get out because they can't shower anymore because there's piss all in the hot springs. And so the Wild Wild Pussycats lets them go over to the girl side. And yes, this is how I'll make the ship start. As everybody knows, they're dating. Well, all 4 of them. So it's like, they don't have foursomes. They have 5-somes, dude. But I don't think I'll do that. I think I'll have them do the deed one at a time. I'm pretty sure if I do a 5-some, that'd be kind of weird. be quite a bit of detail I have to add. And being that this is the series finale, I could do like 10 minutes on them having sex. But I'm not gonna do that. So as Deku walks into the girl's side, as well as all the other guys and the Wild Wild Pussycats to explain to the girls what happened, as soon as Momo, Jiro, Todoroki, and Kasuga seen Deku, they all looked away as fast as they could because they were blushing mad hard. And some of the girls took notice to this and asked Deku if they could come sit with Todoroki, Momo, Jiro, and Katsuka, because in this what if those four are best friends, hang out. Todoroki's not her cold self. She opens up a lot more. And as Deku sits next to him, his chest is exposed, so his muscular, lean body, like Bonds from Seven Deadly Sins type body, or if you must, Saitama from One Punch Man. He's like that physical fit body looking. He worked on his physique, not his muscular strength, which is kind of both the same thing, but one bulks you up, one doesn't. One makes your muscles denser and more defined. One makes your muscles less dense and just extremely huge. So as they're doing this, Momo, Jiro, Todoroki, and Kasuga all sit next to Deku, and they start talking a bit. None of them look at Deku. They look away when they talk to him, and so Deku getting aggravated, and he says, you know, hold on, let me try and find a voice I could do for Deku. You know you guys can sit next to me, right? Or look at me when you talk to me. It's kind of hard to hear y'all. And they just poof up red, like an anime, like steam come out their ears and shit like that. And so they all look at Deku with their red faces. And Deku looks at them and he smirks a bit. And he kisses all four of them on the cheek, making them like sink into the water and hide their face. And now all of class, when they saw this, Mina's doing her usual, the girliest of all the girls. Toru's excited about this. Honestly, I don't even think anybody's seen Toru because she's invisible. There's Mina, Toru, Sue. Yeah, Sue was there also. And I don't know all the girls in Class 1A. Ayamo saw this. And me personally, I don't want like start a war. I think Ayamo is the UA traitor. Like 100%. I won't talk about it this video, but like another video, if y'all want me to like talk about it and give my reasoning, I will gladly do so. And they're all hyped about Deku. Well, some of the boys are mad that Deku took 4 of the women. Not only that, 2 of the hotter women. Oh, 3 of the hotter women. Because remember, Mineta didn't say Jiro was hot, so she's still insecure about her body. And they say this out loud, and Jiro does that thing where she gets, like, jealous and sad at the same time. And Deku kisses her on the lips and says to all of the Class 1A boys that, what do you mean there's 4 hot girls here, not 3? And Jiro does her blush. And this is when all 4 of them confess their love for Deku. And Deku knew they all loved him, so he said he can't choose in between them because he truly cares about all of them the same. And we move on to day 1. I'm pretty sure they attacked, after a week or so? Possibly. I'm not sure if they attack like after a day. Let's just say they attack after a week. So the students have gotten training in. And Deku goes to Koda's secret spot to train more because it's like that cliff, so it has darkness, it has like shadow area. And if Deku's shadow from the sun or the moonlight, you would be able to see Deku's outline of his shadow for his quirk to work. If it's connected to a bigger shadow, he can use that shadow all the same, but he can't move it. So now, Deku goes here to train. Kasuka, Momo, Jiro, Todoroki will visit him sometimes. And one time, whenever Momo visited him, they had a makeout session, and Momo started to get a bit frisky, if you know what I mean. And so Deku, being confident as he was, found the radio and started turning the dial, if you know what I mean. And Momo is letting off soft moans. I'm not going to moan. I'm not doing that. I will say what she's saying, but I will not moan when I say it. I don't do that. She's moaning, saying, Deku, that's sensitive, but she stutters as she's saying this. So, and there's that cave nearby, I'm pretty sure that Koda likes to hang out around. Or that was that Tokiyami's cave. And they just do it out in broad daylight. But see, nobody knows about this spot except Kasuka, Momo, Jiro, and Todoroki. Only those four know about this spot. So, now, Deku, ever since he's transformed, he got hung like a horse. So, Deku got a 13-inch. No more, no less. And this kind of scares Momo when she first saw it. Because she was planning on giving him the Tongue Twister 3000. But since this thing is as big as her arm, well, as big as her forearm, and as thick as her calf, I guess, because Momo doesn't got big calves, as thick as her calf, she says, well, she straight up knows that idea is clean out the window. So she gives Deku a hand job. Now, Deku has phenomenal stamina. God, I just realized I didn't make it the same way for the other three. I mean, like, for Bakugo, I feel like she'd be a type of a kinky person, or Jiro, one of those two, would be kinky. So I'm probably going to make it where Bakugo's is kinky, so if you don't like the kinky shit, go ahead and skip past that part, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to do her next, then Momo, then Todoroki, and then Jiro. So, she's giving Deku a hand job. She's been doing this for like 5 minutes straight. And so, Deku picks Momo up and flips her upside down and starts eating her cake, okay? Now, Deku's giving her a tongue tornado, bro. He is going ham on the physique, okay? It's kind of hard to not laugh when I do this. But then Deku finally puts her down by a rock and asks if she's ready. She says yes. Deku gets halfway in, and he meets the back of Momo, okay? Back of Momo's womb, or the entrance of Momo's womb, and he's only halfway in, so he goes the rest of the way, and he is completely destroying Momo at this point. Like, then he starts to speed up. Let's just say he takes it slow at first because she's a virgin. Of course she is, but it's Momo we're talking about. Miss Goody Two Shoes. No confidence, but Goody Two Shoes. So, therefore, after like 3 minutes of taking it slow, Deku speeds up, and Deku's can be pretty fast. We'll say about, he could be Edith type fast. But, as I said last time, if Edith used Reciprocal Burst, Deku won't be able to keep up. So, Deku speeds up, and Momo's is having the best time of her life, and the worst time, because her vagisal is ripping because Deku is completely and utterly destroying her vagina, bro. He's destroying that shit, dude. So they do this. Well, as Deku starts making out with her ass, he's plowing her from behind. After like 45 minutes of doing this, Momo has like completely been destroyed. She has no stamina left. She has come like 16 different times. And this is when Deku finally shoots his load. I'm not going to say that like most people say whenever they have sex, he can control like if his semen is fertile or not. Deku can't. So he does come inside. And Momo is the safe day. But this won't be for a certain someone. But I'm not, since this is a series finale, if I do that, it's kind of going to be stupid. So it's not going to be good. It's not going to be like that for someone. So Deku's going to pull out and it's a certain someone. So as they finish this, Momo sleeps. She's completely out of it. So Deku carries her back to camp. And as Jiro asked what's wrong, Deku said, "Oh, nothing. She just couldn't handle the private training session, if you will." And Jiro doesn't fully get the picture. She only gets part that it was a private session, so they probably made out and played with each other a little bit. So, as Deku goes inside and puts Momo down in her room. I think they shared rooms or not. And puts Momo down in her sleeping bag. Now, the League of Villains hasn't attacked yet. Or doesn't attack for like another 2 days. So, Deku goes outside yet again. This time it's around 2 o'clock for them. Momo's still out of it, and they did this at like around 1:12 and 1 o'clock. It's like 12:35 is when they started. 1:20 is when it ended. So, as Deku walks outside, Katsuka drags him into the woods. And this is where the kinky shit starts. She has pink fluff. She has a orange and black handcuffs. Okay. I'm not into this kinky shit. I'm just feel like this is what something Katsuka or Bakugo would be into. So if you don't like kinky shit, skip this part. So as she dragged Deku into the woods, she began to make out with Deku and groping at his groin. And so Deku picks her up. So she's like got her legs wrapped around Deku. And they're in a makeout session. Deku's groping her. So on and so forth. They get undressed. Now they're in a part of the woods where it's like deemed to be dangerous. And that's because it hasn't been explored yet. Even though the Wild Wild Pussycats owns the entire woods. So, as they get started, Deku gets, as Bakugo's making out with Deku, she puts one handcuff around Deku's hand and another one around a tree branch, same side, vice versa. So Deku's pretty much pinned against two trees, arms spread out, naked. And so, unlike Momo, Kasuka's going to give Deku a blowjob no matter what. And because Kasuka likes to talk trash a lot, she got a big mouth. We say it like that. She has a bigger mouth than Momo, so she's able to actually like take in a quarter of Deku's Deku's dick, okay? Now Deku actually enjoys this because it's the first time he's gotten a blowjob. He already lost his virginity to Momo though, which Kasuka doesn't know about, and had to come into play like as they're going into the test of courage. So as she's doing this for like 5 minutes, Deku's still hard, so they move on to sex. So and Deku can't really move out well. He can easily break out, and so as Bakugo walks away for like a minute and a half, she comes back with a whip. And now this is when Deku starts getting concerned. Like, bro, he got a full-blown whip they use to torture, like, vampires and werewolves that break the law. And so, like, this whip cuts deep. It splits your skin on impact. But she ain't gonna smack him hard enough to split his skin. Just smack him hard enough to leave bruises and stuff like that. So she starts licking on Deku's abs and his pecs and starts sucking on his nipple. And then as she backs up, she goes behind Deku and smacks him with the whip. And Deku goes, mmm. And she smacks him like 5 more times. And this is whenever they go into sex, okay? Now, as they're having sex, Deku breaks his chains and starts plowing her from the behind because Kasuka only took half of it and kept doing half only. So as Deku broke the chains, he ran the other half in, paralyzing Kasuka for like a couple of seconds because she was completely shocked, in pain, in pleasure. She just didn't know what to feel. Her body was given mixed emotions. Now, Deku starts destroying her, and as they're having sex, Deku smacks her on the ass, as this makes her come once, and then he began to choke her, okay? So I don't really know how to play out this kinky shit because I'm not kinky myself. So, we get into this, and now she's, like, really having a blast, dude. Like, she could get addicted to doing this. Like, on a daily basis, she could do this. Like, 4 times a day type addiction. Oh my god, it just about shut off and cut out, bro. That was scary. So, this goes on for an hour and a half because bucket plot reasons. Because Deku always, Kasuka's his childhood friend. And so, they're having their fun time. Now, Jiro doesn't see this, neither does Todoroki. But Todoroki, I'm guessing, would be like more into like, damn, I'm losing my voice. She'd be more into doggy style, I guess. I don't know what Todoroki would be into. Now, Deku's a top, and Todoroki likes to be dominated. I don't know if that's true or not because I'm not Todoroki. But let's get back to Kasuka and them. So, as they're having this fun, Bakugo or Kasuka is moaning very, very loudly. So Deku starts choking her and telling her she needs to be quiet or the others will hear. And so she does that. If you haven't heard it, Corpse's E-Girls Are Ruining My Life. I really like that song, so y'all should go check it out. That first part, she says that. I'm not gonna say it. Well, I could say it. It's that part like, choke me like you hate me, but you love me. That part. The first line of his song. She says that. And Deku knows she's kinky as hell. So he begins to go all out, like full rhinoceros, hitting a wall of concrete type pounds. And he's choking her almost enough to suffocate her, but just enough to let her breathe. And he's also not stopping when she comes to give her a break, so she's just completely being destroyed, utterly brutalized. Momo got like breaks every now and then, but she don't get none. Like, he's destroying her. Now, 2 hours fully go by, so 30 minutes after that started, Deku finally comes. He comes on her back because she said it wasn't a save day before they even started. And Deku barely remembered this until she told him again. Okay. So now it's like nighttime. Well, it was like 1 o'clock when they started. They've been having sex for 2 hours, so it's like 3 o'clock. They have to go back to training. I'm gonna say they get like the morning and like a quarter of the afternoon to do whatever they want, and then training afterwards. Plot reasons. And so as they go back to training, Momo hasn't woken up. Bakugo is completely, utterly destroyed. He has trouble walking. Deku blew her back out. So Deku picks her up and carries her there. She's blushing, and as he's carrying her there, one of the Wild Wild Pussycats asks what happened. And no, let's just say that Aizawa asked what happened, and Deku and Aizawa on that like bro status, like they broskies, like they best friends, not best friends, but they tell each other almost everything. And so Deku's like, we have we have fun, Mr. Aizawa. Fuck. Losing my voice. And Aizawa's eyes go up, and he goes to my boy like that, because Aizawa was hyped for Deku. Ever since Deku got betrayed, he doesn't really like Class 1A, but he's forced to teach them. So he's on like a full-blown teacher-student relationship. He don't like fuck with them afterwards, like after class. He don't fuck with them at all. But Deku and him are like that, like brotherhood status. So as Deku brings Kasuka into her room, into her sleeping bag next to Momo's, he kisses her on the lips and she blushes about this. And Deku said, Kasuka, we literally just had sex and you're blushing about a kiss. And she's like, I know, but it's still embarrassing. And Deku goes off. And Deku says, yeah, I get it, but it's just weird. Like, after we just had that much fun. And she blushes more about this, and you start blushing about a kiss. It's insane, but I guess I gotta go start training again. So Deku does so. He goes to his secret spot, which is aka Koda's spot. And this is 2 days before the attack. So that means Deku is gonna end up having sex with Todoroki and Jiro a day from now. Not like a whole day in real life, but like a day there. So training goes by as usual. Instead, this time, Deku doesn't get interrupted by Momo. So he fully does get all his training done. And he unlocks a new move that allows him to use Eyes of Death and his shadow manipulation. I guess I could call it shadow manipulation, but he can only manipulate things from his shadow. So he learns this move that allows him to create several, for the shadow manipulation, it allows him to create like 10 different things at a time, which he'll rarely ever use. And the other one allows him to his Eyes of Death allows him to move much faster and hold it for longer. So now he can hold it for 2 minutes, and he can move at slow motion. He can move everyone else in slow motion. He moves normally, so he can be pretty much like the Flash almost, but not as fast as the Flash. The Flash can go back in time if he runs fast enough, I'm pretty sure. But the Flash can get around the world really quick. Deku can't. He can probably get like not even a quarter before his time limit reaches. So now we begin with day 2 of the Force Training arc. And so this is when they do the Ting with Jiro and Todoroki. I'm not going to go into theirs because it's kind of the same. I don't really know how to make it different. I don't know enough about like a character. Like Jiro, we barely see her in the anime sometimes. Like, and there's some episodes where she's not there like at all. So they do their thing, and then the day comes with the test of courage. And instead of it just being Kasuga and Todoroki, it's gonna be all 5 of them go together in groups of 5, and they're the first group to go in. So they go in, and they get out, and this is when the sludge villain attacks. It goes the same way, but Deku goes to his secret spot because he believes 100% his class can handle it. Oh, I forgot about, I gotta do the all for one shit. Oh my, this might be like a 2-hour video. Or an hour and a half at most. So, yeah, I think I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll be back. I gotta go grab a drink because my throat's really dry. Alright. So, they're the first group out. Deku goes to his spot. And as canon, Muscular shows up. But this time, Deku completely, because it's at night, so Deku, and the moonlight's there, so Deku's shadow's connected to all of it. Like, Deku's ability only works if there's, like, his shadows in that shadow. But if there's, like, if he's in a dark cave and there's, like, no sunlight nor moonlight, and there's, like, nothing to reflect his shadow, he can't use it. So as Muscular does his thing, he tries to punch Deku, and Deku just stops him in place. And summons up, 2 swords. He can use 2 swords at a time. So as he jumps back and unfreezes Muscular's confused why he unfroze him, and Deku tells him he wants a fair fight. Like that. And so they begin to fight, and Deku is as strong as Muscular. Whenever he was doing that show, he's about to crush Deku in the cannon. So, like, where he's, like, on top of him, and he goes that shit with, like, and he gets completely crushed and destroyed until he does that stupid power-up and breaks his entire arm again. Like, he's about that strong. So, Muscular and him are fighting. Deku's using his sword, yes. He's also easily, like, evading and bodying Muscular. And this goes on for what, like 10 minutes, and then Muscular finally drops to one knee. And this is when, instead of like last time where they had the teeth guy fight Kasuka, the teeth guy was there with Muscular. And so they started double teaming him. And Deku was only using one sword to fight Muscular. Now he's using both, and kicks and twists and acrobatics. And so Deku's like, they're evenly matched with Deku. They finally get a point on him where like he gets hit, but it doesn't do as much damage as they thought it would. So Deku stands up and he's tired of playing with him. Now during this, like this past couple minutes he was fighting him, Muscular said that they're looking for a kid named Bakugo or Kasuka. And Deku hearing this, he gets like pissed. And so he summons up 10 swords out of the ground, 5 on the teeth dude, and 5 going straight through both the Muscular's leg and up to his waist, but not going into his waist. So pretty much dropping them down to their knees, and they can't move. And Deku interrogates them, asking what do they want from Kasuka, and they said they're going to try and make her return. And so Deku knocks them both out, and he drags them to camp and throws them to Aizawa as he takes off for Kasuka. And he sees Kasuka fighting the mustard guy, and Kasuka throws an explosion, and this easily defeats the mustard guy. As she sees Deku, she runs up to him and asks what's wrong. He says nothing, that he just has to stay here with her. And then all out of nowhere, she just disappears, and a villain wearing a suit, a mask, and a top hat comes running past Deku and picks a little green ball up. And of course, it's being compressed. As he compressed Kasuka down. And I'm pretty sure I made All Might a dick in this one. So, and he hasn't found his successor yet. So, I mean, like, he's still Prime Might. So, we move on to Deku chasing this dude down. And Deku easily catches him. And as he crushes the ball that Kasuka's in, she gets freed. But she's out cold. And as Momo, Jiro, Todoroki, and the rest of Class 1A get over there, Deku quickly runs over, grabs Kasuka, and gives her to Class 1A as he gets compressed and then taken, as well as Ida. And if you know how canon went, they're chasing them down, and they grab one of the compressed balls, and this was Ida. And so Deku was the one that ended up being taken. So as Bakugo, Kasuka, Todoroki, and Jiro are running to the portal, he tells them to stay back, like Bakugo did in the actual thing. Give me a second. So now we cut to last time. It took them like half a day to get Bakugo. This one is gonna be like 2 weeks of Deku being there with the League of Villains, and they tried to convince him at first, but now they're just sitting there torturing him. And let's just say that his abilities can't be taken like by All For One, so they just torture the shit out of him because they have nothing better for him, nothing to do for him. So they torture him by Dabi burning him, Shigaraki decaying parts of his body. And let's just say, plot reasons, All Might gave him a strong regeneration quirk like the Nomus had. So they're like burning entire body parts off, cutting his arms off, stabbing him. Toga, being Toga, let's just say she had private fun time with Deku. So pretty much, yeah, she raped Deku several times over this past week. No, I think I said 2 weeks or something like that of being there because they couldn't. Because this one, Momo never put the tracker on the Nomu. so they couldn't easily find Deku. Until the League of Villains made the mistake of deciding to broadcast them torturing Deku, like on the second day. And Deku shirtless, tied up, blindfolded, and a rag covering his mouth. And this is broadcasted everywhere, pretty much like a hacker. So every camera, every TV in the world is just showing Deku being tortured. Now, UA, as Momo, Jiro, Todoroki, and Katsuka walk out of Deku's room, they go downstairs to the common room, and they see on the TV Deku tied up, and they're terrified in seeing Deku tied up like that. And as they're doing this, Nezu, Aizawa, Midnight, Kamui Woods, a couple other guys, I forgot, like Mount Lady was there, the Dragon Hero Ryuku, I'm pretty sure it was, Mirako, Endeavor. All Might's not there, because he already used his time limit. So as this goes on, All Might used his time limit. And as all of them are watching this, as they already got the League of Villains location, and they can't just go barge in there like that because they don't have a plan. And this is when Shigaraki grabs Deku's arm and fully decayed it. This horrifying, this shocking and shooting terror through everyone in the city and in Class 1A, 1B. Whew. And then they see Toga come out, and I'm not gonna broadcast Toga having sex with Deku like that. It'd just be fucking weird, and I'm not gonna do that. But they broadcast Toga stabbing Deku in the stomach and stabbing him in the chest. And as everybody's terrified, thinking that Deku's gonna die, as they start to see Deku slowly regenerate, and Deku is muffled but screaming out in pain, so he sounds like, "Oh!" every time he gets stabbed. And then they pull out a gun, but Deku's kind of like Logan's ability. He can't be healed unless if what caused the wound is still in his body. And if you don't know who Logan is, that's Wolverine. So as they pull out a shotgun and shoot Deku in the side, blowing parts of his respiratory everywhere, and they see his kidneys, parts of his appendix, his stomach laying on the ground, as it all just starts to steam and just disappear as Deku regenerates again. And they see that Deku is actually in excruciating pain. No matter who you are, no matter what you claim to say, you don't feel pain, if you get your, the left side of your body blown off, and your, your internal organs are on the ground, you're going to fucking feel that. So, yeah, they stream this for, days on end. They stream it, they stream it, for 2 hours every day. And they do new torture methods every time. The first one was stabbing and, shooting. The next one was fire torture. And this really pissed Todoroki off. She started to go back to her cold self, where she doesn't like fire and doesn't want to use it. Now, Deku doesn't start losing his mind, but he starts plotting a way to get out. And now this is whenever All For One came on the thing. And this time All Might gets involved because his arch nemesis, All For One, is there. And as he grabs Deku by the face, he forces 13 quirks on Deku. I'm not going to go into detail about these quirks because he's going to take them back afterwards. And this causes Deku's body to start changing and morphing and starting to tear itself apart, because Deku has a total of 14 quirks, so he's practically like a Nomu. And so before he completely loses his mind and just becomes like a Nomu, All for One takes the corpse back, and now Deku's like mind's destroyed a bit. He's starting to lose his memories, but the one memories he won't lose is being betrayed, Class 1A, warming up to them, starting to become friends again. Aizawa, he doesn't lose any of his memories about being abused. He only loses memories about small details. And they did this twice, and the second time, Deku lost color of his eyes. He didn't go blind, but like his pupils just disappeared. He no longer can pretty much no longer has a gleam to his eyes. Like it's almost like his soul was shattered entirely. And this is a full week of them doing this. They torture Deku all day, every day, but only stream it 2 hours a day. And during this time, Jiro, Momo, Todoroki, and Kasuga are absolutely horrified and are bawling their eyes out because their boyfriend is literally being tortured on live TV for everyone in Japan. And they start doing their little plan because Aizawa tells them they found out where the League of Villain is torturing Deku, and as soon as they said that, Momo, Jiro, Todoroki, and Kasuga all group up together, and they plan to go save Deku themselves, like in canon how they save Bakugo. And I'm gonna say the All Might fight goes differently. So as they get there, they kick the door down, and Hawks goes and destroys all the Nomu parts and shit like that. So they have more pro heroes on standby with All Might, and this is when the students come by. Well, the 4 come by to save Deku. As they get inside, because the pro heroes are up above fighting the villains, the League of Villains, and they get to Deku and they find him chained up, scars all over his body. Yes, he had regeneration, but that doesn't mean the scars won't just stay there. So this is what Deku's body looks like. This is what Deku's body looks like now. Deku's body looks like exactly like this, but with like deeper cuts all over his body, burns, just like completely scarred up and destroyed Deku. But there's like no scars on his face. There's like cuts that have healed, and they're like tiny, tiny scars. Almost like a scar you get from cutting yourself with a knife by accident, and it just heals up ever so slightly. And it was deep enough to do a scar. So, as they see Deku all scarred up, they haven't been able to see his eyes. As they take the rag off his mouth, he doesn't say anything. But whenever they take the rag off, whenever they take the blindfold off, they see his eyes and they think he's been mentally destroyed. And Deku mumbles, "It's been a while, guys," like that. And they all hug Deku and say they need to get out of here. And Deku's like, "Yeah, no kidding." And let's just say that they didn't. All for One took all of his quirk back, except his like shadow quirk, because that quirk can't be taken nor given. So they do that, and as such, let me think. What's it called? They dip. They get the fuck out of there before any teacher can see them and shit like that. So after the whole mission, they arrest. Well, the All Might fight goes very differently. All Might doesn't almost get his ass beat since he has prime. Since he's in his prime, but he only has like 50% of his prime because of his injury that All for One gave him, and so All Might doesn't easily beat him. He gets another injury that pretty much makes him his 3-hour limit go down to 30 minutes. And they go down and they search the place and they don't find Deku. And whenever all the teachers go back to UA, disappointed and angry to themselves, this is whenever they see Deku chilling. Well, Deku in Nezu's office talking to Nezu about what happened and all this, that. And Nezu is actually horrified about the things they actually did to Deku, because they didn't show the things that Toga was doing or what Dabi was doing. Well, they did show things that Dabi was doing, but they didn't show things that Twice did, anything like that. Because Twice tried to fuck with Deku's mind and make like clones of Katsuka, because Katsuka was the only one they really had information about, and they would kill Katsuka like 100 different times in front of Deku, and Deku actually was affected at first, but then he remembered that these are just clones and Katsuka is actually a lot more stronger than that. She'd fight back, and they made Katsuka beat the shit out of Deku, and this actually did nothing to Deku because Deku's used to it by now, of actually being beat by Katsuka. Now we move on to like All Might's perspective of this. He feels bad for Deku, but he also doesn't really care since this was his ex-successor, and supposedly in All Might's book he's still a villain because All Might is All Might. He's dumb as fuck. He has like 3 brain cells. He doesn't like to believe. He likes to believe in evidence against someone, but not evidence that is with someone that proves them innocent. He's like a lawyer that goes against his defendant, pretty much. So now this is whenever they take their licensing exam, and Deku, Todoroki. I'm not really gonna go into this because it goes the same way as canon, but this time Todoroki and Katsuka pass, and Uraraka and I'm gonna say Mineta and Uraraka fail because I don't even see how Mineta even got in. I mean, like, he literally just makes things get stuck, and that's it. That's all he does. He's more of a capturing villain. I don't see a capturing hero. I don't even see how he even beat Deku in the Quirk assessment test. Because, I mean, like, how did he beat Deku? Deku was able to pick up All Might and work out with All Might literally. Like, and you're telling me he was able to beat Deku in, like, physical side to side and shit like that? It's insane to me. But enough of me ranting about that. So those two failed, and Todoroki, Jiro, Momo, and Katsuka. I'm gonna say to take Uraraka's place, it's gonna be Jiro, because I haven't put much of Jiro in here. So as Deku and Jiro goes to Gunhead, I'm pretty sure that was his name, and starts training with him. Deku goes to Night Eye. Night Eye looks into Deku's future, and all Night Eye sees is black, because Deku's future is unpredictable. And this kind of terrifies him, but also makes Night Eye really happy, so he instantly stamps Deku. And so Deku and Mirio go on a patrol, as in canon. And this is whenever they meet up with Katsuka as they were on their patrol. Because in this one, Deku don't take no shit. If you see somebody that's in trouble and they need help, he'll help. So whenever Eri bumps into him, he looks down at her, and she's holding his. She quickly jumps on Deku and hugs him tightly. As Deku looks up, he sees Overhaul, and Overhaul's talking about, oh, this is his daughter, and shit like that, like he did in canon. And this time, Deku's shadow's connected to in the inside, and so he immediately freezes Overhaul in his tracks, and asks Overhaul if it's really his daughter. And Overhaul says yes, even asks her. As Deku asks her, Overhaul tries to use that shit where he's like, somebody else is gonna die, Eri. like that to whisper to her, but he can't use his quirk whenever he's in his Deku's shadow because he can't move his hands. And the only way he can use his quirk, I'm pretty sure, is with his hands. Because that's Shigaraki took his hands. So Eri shakes her head no and buries her chest deeper into Deku. And this is whenever Deku releases his shadow by accident. And Kasuga and everyone else is there. Kasuga and like some random guy there. And this fight doesn't go as canon. As soon as Deku accidentally drops to the shadow binding, what's his name? Overhaul touched the ground and made a big cavern like it was in canon. And started trying to throw shit at Deku. And this is when Deku summons up his shadows. Not like shadow clones, but like shadow swords. And he sends them through the ground. Because he made a cavern, so it was like all connected to Deku's shadow. And he made this go through. And Deku stopped his body for a second. And these swords went through his hands. And Overhaul repaired them. And Deku doesn't know what Overhaul's quirk is, but he does know that this is the guy that Night Eye wants taken down. So we move on to the fact that Deku is fighting him, and before he goes into this fight, Eri's quirk sort of activates. So this is when Deku starts using his Eyes of Death, which give him like a 2-minute boost. And this time he starts using them even harder to the point where he stops time. Him and Eri can see and move everything. But Deku's eyes start gushing blood and it's like almost exploding. Because Eri's rewind quirk, he's fine, but he does do that thing where he hunches over a bit after like punching Overhaul in the stomach like 3 different times. Because he froze down like 12 different times. And this is when he stops freezing time. And Overhaul goes flying back, and Deku's eyes like start gushing blood. Then Eri then fixes it, and Deku doesn't know what their quirks are. He starts to piece together Eri's quirk. He thinks it's like a healing quirk, and this is when Overhaul explains what her quirk is, and his little stupid ass monologue about it being able to rewind a person. And he's trying to fix the world and shit like that. And Deku gets a good grasp on it. And after Overhaul's monologue, Deku hunches over because his body's like being destroyed from the inside out because Eri's rewinding everything about him. His internal organs, everything. Now this is when Deku grabs Eri, ties it to his back like in canon, and activates his Eyes of Death. And just beats the ever-loving shit out of Overhaul. Now, before he ended it, it kind of went like Goku versus Jiren's fight. Deku was about to finish it. And then, boom, Eri's core got stronger. Made him hunch over again. Dropping out of the Eyes of Death mode. And giving Overhaul the advantage. But I'm doing that thing where he sticks Deku in the stomach with his quirk. Deku had regeneration, but this went straight through like Night Eye's injury. Now all of the pro heroes are informed about this, and they get there as Deku was fighting Overhaul, and they see Deku get impaled, and Deku breaks it, but this time like pieces of it were still inside, so Deku's not fully healed. So then Overhaul starts to put a beating on Deku, but beforehand Deku puts Eri down to fight Overhaul himself, and Deku summons up swords yet again, pushing his limit this time because he's done summon 20 items at once, which is kind of breaking his body. So then Eri does her thing where she runs off with Kasuga being like somewhat injured from the one variety of attack that impaled Deku. So I'm sorry if y'all hear those airplanes in the background. I'm just outside today because it's a beautiful day today. Of course, though, every time it's a beautiful day, it gets ruined by a plane. But, and as Katsuka is not as badly injured as Mirio, she's just out of stamina from fighting like Mirio's goons because they were there at one point. And this is whenever Overhaul tries to pull out the Cork erasing bullets and shoot Deku. And one of them almost hits Deku, but he deploys. He quickly uses Eyes of Death and dodges it. And pretty much he parries the bullet back towards Overhaul. And this hitting Overhaul in his leg, but going straight through, and the bullet didn't stay inside because it didn't take full effect. So it erased Overhaul's Cork like it did Tamaki's. Whenever Kirishima was with what's his name, Fat Gum, I think that was his hero name, and he got in front of it and saved Tamaki from getting shot a second time. And the Cork then erased Overhaul's Cork for like 5 minutes, and Deku puts a beating on Overhaul for these 5 minutes. Cause I'm not trying to make Deku like completely overpowered. He's gonna have some villains he can't beat, and so. Deku is on top of Overhaul as he beat that Overhaul. And this is Overhaul does that shit where like somebody else is gonna die, Eri, and Eri comes walking back out because let's just say Katsuka passed out from pain because she did get impaled in her legs. It was hard for her to walk, so she passed out from pain. And Eri comes walking around the corner like she did in Canon. Deku sees this and tells her not to come, but she does so anyway with her Cork like activating at a radius like Denki's AoE attack. So this heals Overhaul, but it damages Deku because Deku was perfectly fine with like a small amount of blood loss. And so he quickly runs over and grabs Eri and does like a super combo that destroys his body and utterly like obliterates his body because Eri's there. It's gonna like save him. So Aizawa shows up after Deku does this. So Deku takes the UV rays from the sun, summons up 2 swords, and transfers the heat into these blades. And these blades are bright as the sun. And then this is when Deku completely surrounds himself in a shadow. So Deku's able to move and around like Kurogiri does. And Deku's body is exploding with blood shooting out everywhere. As I said, he can't use this move without destroying his body. He needs to train more. So this is what completely overpowers Overhaul like in Canon. I don't know a good name to call this move. I was thinking about Abyssal Black Body, but that's Tokiyami's move. So we could say Dark Armor, or let's call it Evil Elite Warrior. Yeah, Evil Elite Warrior mode. And this is when Deku stops as he hunches over and Eri's Cork is out of control. And Aizawa does this thing where he erases it. Now, Deku can't stand or do anything like that because his body's still destroyed a bit. And Eri passes out from her overusage of her Cork because she hasn't been training her Cork because Overhaul is a fucking idiot. If he would have trained Eri in her Cork, she could have easily been better use. But that's me. Neither here or there. So a couple days pass, and Deku's in the hospital. As he gets out, he goes down to check up on Eri, and they say Deku can't go in, and Deku just pushes past him and walks in there and sees Eri. Aizawa was in the room with Eri just in case anything goes bad. And as Deku walks up to Eri, and Eri does her canon thing where like she doesn't know Deku's name and shit like that. And also Katsuka was in the hospital as well, so she's there, and she asked Deku what his name was, and he says, "My name's Izuku Midoriya." But he said the Midoriya part with a small amount of venom, but he doesn't like the Midoriyas because his mom was abusive, because he was said to be quirkless, which he wasn't, but his quirk never activated. And this is whenever she asked Katsuka what her name is. She said Katsuka Bakugo. And she says, and Jiro, Momo, and Todoroki come in because they were visiting Deku that day, and they said that Deku went down to check on the girl he saved because they realized that Deku has been gone for like a couple days. And so they asked Aizawa where he was, and Aizawa told him that he was in the hospital because of his I don't know if the night I was an internship or not, because of his like thing that he went to. And so they went to visit the hospital, and they asked where Deku was, and they told Deku's room. But then whenever he got there, the nurse said that he went down to visit a little girl. And so they went there, and Aries scared of them, except Deku and Totoro and what's her name, Katsuka. Now, Katsuka and Deku explained that Deku is in a relationship with all four of them, and that they're really nice people. And Deku doesn't tell Eri about him being betrayed and abused and all this and that. And what shocks everyone, including Mr. Aizawa, was whenever Eri called Deku Dad, and Momo, Todoroki, Jiro, and Katsuka Mom, and then looked over at Aizawa and called Aizawa Granddad. And Deku busts out laughing whenever she said Granddad, and the girls started chuckling a bit, and then they just realized what Eri said about them, that they were mom, and they all turned bright red and started blushing. And Deku looked at them and said, "What? It ain't so bad. You get to be a mom now," with an exciting tone in his voice. And so they do the thing where like they prepare for that one festival, and they vote on doing that song concert. It goes exactly the same way to canon, but this time Katsuka is the instrument player. I would say Jiro's the singer, Deku's the guitar player, and most of Class 1A is the dancers. And the one holding Eri is Aizawa, Granddad Aizawa. And we move on to the part whenever they start doing that big explosion and start sending out confetti, stuff like that. And Eri doesn't smile yet, but whenever the show's over and she walks up to Deku, she jumps on Deku and climbs up to his shoulders and saying, Dad, that was so cool. And all of Class 1A heard this, and they looked at Deku. And as Deku said, Deku didn't notice this. And as Momo, Jiro, Todoroki, and Katsuka walked up, they say, Mom, y'all were so cool. And they all blushed intensely, like they turned like a gasoline can red or tomato red. And so Deku pulled out a candy apple and gave it to Eri, which this is what sparked Eri to smile a bit. And then Deku said, let's go to the theme park. And Eri asked what a theme park was. And Deku explained to her what the theme park was. And let's just say they go to, let me think of it. Beckline, yeah. Beckline is like Disney World, but like bigger, better, shit like that. And Eri smiles the whole time they're there. And as they're walking back to the dorms, Aizawa sees Eri smiling a lot, and he's like really proud of Deku and the girls. Now this is whenever Deku goes into his room and falls asleep, as he gets the vision, not of the One for All users, but of hold on, let me think of somebody that anime character that I know that was betrayed. No, he sees a. I think what was it called? His like Sung Jung Woo's one thing, that big purplish looking shadow, looking at an entire army of shadows as it reaches out to him and says, "So you're the successor." And as Deku wakes up, his room covered in darkness, and his window shatters. Now I'm gonna leave it here because I'm not gonna go into like the manga and like just fuck with everything in the manga. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and yes, this is the season finale. And I might do a 50 subscriber special collab with Shadow Hokage, I'm pretty sure it was called. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and have a blessed day.